Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So we'd like to welcome everyone to our weekly Sunday Krishna book reading to Srila Prabhupada. We're so grateful that he allows us to come into his sacred room. And this week, you can turn in your Krishna books to chapter 89. And you can follow along. The ITV has kindly put subtitles on the bottom of the screen, so that will help you to follow along in English. Before we begin, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnu Madaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskacha Deshatarane. And to each other, Panchakalpaturvischa Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Yes, chapter 89, the super excellent power of Krishna. Long, long ago, there was an assembly of great sages on the bank of the river Saraswati, who performed a great sacrifice of the name Satra. In such assemblies, the great sages present usually discuss Vedic subject matters and philosophical topics. And in this particular meeting, the following question was raised. The three predominating deities of this material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, are directing all the affairs of this cosmos. But who among them is the supreme? After much discussion on this question, the great sage named Brigu, the son of Lord Brahma, was deputed to test all three predominating deities and report to the assembly as to who is the greatest.
Being thus deputed, the great sage Brigu Muni first of all went to his father's residence in Brahmaloka. The three deities are the controllers of the three material qualities, namely the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. The plan decided upon by the sages was for Brigu to test which one of the predominating deities possesses the quality of goodness in full. Therefore, when Brigu Muni reached his father, Lord Brahma, because Brigu wanted to test whether Brahma had the quality of goodness, he purposely did not offer his respect to his father, either by offering obeisances or by offering prayers. It is the duty of a son or a disciple to offer respects and recite suitable prayers when he approaches his father or spiritual master. But Brigu Muni purposely failed to offer respects just to see Lord Brahma's reaction to this negligence. Lord Brahma was very angry at his son's impudence, and he showed signs which definitely proved this to be so. He was even prepared to condemn Brigu by cursing him, but because Brigu was his son, Lord Brahma controlled his anger with his great intelligence. This means that although the quality of passion was prominent in Lord Brahma, he had the power to control it. Lord Brahma's anger and his controlling his anger are likened to fire and water. Water is produced from fire at the beginning of creation, but fire can be extinguished with water. Similarly, although Lord Brahma was very angry due to his quality of passion, he could still control his passion because Brigu Muni was his son.
After testing Lord Brahma, Brigu Muni went directly to Mount Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides. Brigu Muni happened to be Lord Shiva's brother. Therefore, as soon as Brigu Muni approached Lord Shiva, was very glad and personally rose to embrace him. But when Lord Shiva approached Brigu Muni refused to embrace him. "My dear brother," he said, "you are always very impure. Because you smear your body with ashes, you are not very clean. Please do not touch me." When Brigu Muni refused to embrace his brother, saying that Lord Shiva was impure, the latter became very angry with him. It is said that an offense can be committed either with the body, with the mind, or by speech. Brigu Muni's first offense committed towards Lord Brahma was an offense with the mind. His second offense committed toward Lord Shiva by insulting him, criticizing him for unclean habits, was an offense by speech. Because the quality of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, when he heard Brigu's insult, his eyes immediately became red with anger. With uncontrollable rage, he took up his trident and prepared to kill Brigu Muni. At that time, Lord Shiva's wife Parvati was present. Her personality, like Lord Shiva's, is a mixture of the three qualities, and therefore she is called Trigunamayi. In this case, she saved the situation by evoking Lord Shiva's quality of goodness. She fell down at the feet of her husband, and with her sweet words, she talked him out of killing Brigu Muni.
After being saved from the anger of Lord Shiva, Brigu Muni went directly to the planet Svetadvipa, where Lord Vishnu was lying on a bed of flowers in the company of his wife, the goddess of fortune, who was engaged in massaging his lotus feet. There, Brigu Muni purposely committed the greatest sin by offending Lord Vishnu by his bodily activities. The first offense committed by Brigu Muni was mental, the second offense was vocal, and the third offense was corporal. These different offenses are progressively greater in degree. An offense committed within the mind is a positive offense. The same offense committed verbally in the comparatively more grave, and when committed by bodily actions, it is superlative in offensiveness. So, Brigu Muni committed the greatest offense by kicking the chest of Lord in the presence of the goddess of fortune. Of course, Lord Vishnu is all merciful. He did not become angry at the activities of Brigu Muni, for Brigu Muni was a great Brahmana. A Brahmana is to be excused when, if he sometimes commits an offense. And Lord Vishnu set the example. Yet it is said that from the time of this incident, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, has not been very favorably disposed towards the Brahmanas. And therefore, because the goddess of fortune withholds her benediction from them, the Brahmanas are generally very poor. Brigu Muni kicking the chest of Lord Vishnu was certainly a great offense. But Lord Vishnu is so great that he did not care. The so-called Brahmanas of the Kali Yuga are sometimes very proud that a great Brahmana like Brigu Muni could touch the chest of Lord Vishnu with his foot. But in fact, when Brigu Muni kicked the chest of Lord Vishnu, it was the greatest offense, although Lord Vishnu, being greatly magnanimous, did not take it very seriously. Instead of being angry,
Nice reading. Instead of being angry or cursing Brigu Muni, Lord Vishnu immediately got up from his bed, along with his wife, the goddess of fortune, and offered respectful obeisances to the Brahmana. He addressed Brigu Muni as follows: "My dear Brahmana, it is my greatest fortune that you have come here. Please, therefore, sit down on this cushion for a few minutes. My dear Brahmana, I am very sorry that when you first entered my home, I could not receive you properly. It was a great offense on my part, and I beg you to pardon me. You are so pure and great that the water which washes your feet can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Therefore, I request you to purify the Vaikuntha planet where I live with my associates. My dear Father, O great sage, I know that your feet are very soft, like a lotus flower, and that my chest is as hard as a thunderbolt. I am therefore afraid that you may have felt some pain by kicking my chest. Let me touch your feet to relieve the pain you have suffered." Lord Vishnu then began to massage the feet of Brigu Muni.
The Lord continued to address Brigu Muni, "My dear Lord," he said, "my chest has now become sanctified because of the touch of your feet, and I am now assured that the goddess of fortune Lakshmi will be very glad to live there perpetually." Another name for Lakshmi is Chanchala, indicating that she does not stay in one place for a long time. Therefore, we see that a rich man's family sometimes becomes poor after a few generations, and sometimes we see that a poor man's family become very rich. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is Chanchala in this material world, whereas in the Vaikuntha planets, she eternally lives at the lotus feet of the God, Lord. Because Lakshmi is famous as Chanchala, Lord Narayan indicates she might not have been living perpetually by his chest, but because his chest had been touched by the feet of Brigu Muni, it was now sanctified, and there was no chance that the goddess of fortune would leave. Brigu Muni, however, could understand his position and that of the Lord, and he was struck with wonder at the behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of his gratitude, his voice choked up and he was unable to reply to the words of the Lord. Tears glided from his eyes and he could not say anything. He simply stood silently before the Lord.
After testing Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, Brigu Muni returned to the assembly of great sages on the bank of the river Saraswati and described his experience. After hearing him with great attention, the sages concluded that of all the predominating deities, Lord Vishnu is certainly the greatest. In Srimad Bhagavatam, these great sages are described as Brahmavadinam. Brahmavadinam means those who talk about the absolute truth but have not yet come to a conclusion. Generally, Brahmavadi refers to the impersonalists or to those who are students of the Vedas. It is to be understood, therefore, that all the gathered sages were serious students of the Vedic literature, but had not come to a definite conclusion as to who is the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead. But after hearing of Brigu Muni's experience in meeting all three predominating deities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu, the sages concluded that Lord Vishnu is the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that after hearing the details from Brigu Muni, the sages were astonished because although Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were immediately agitated, Lord Vishnu, in spite of being kicked, by Brigu Muni was not agitated in the least. The example is given that small lamps may be agitated by a slight breeze, but the greatest lamp or the greatest illuminating source, the sun, is never moved, even by the greatest hurricane. One's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. The sages gathered on the bank of the river Saraswati concluded that one who wants actual peace and freedom from all fear should take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu. Since Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva lost their peaceful attitude upon a slight provocation, how can they maintain the peace and tranquility of their devotees? As for Lord Vishnu, however, it is stated in the Bhagavad-Gita that anyone who accepts Lord Vishnu or Krishna as a supreme friend attains the highest perfection of peaceful life.
The sages thus concluded that by following the principles of Vaishnava Dharma, one becomes actually perfect. But that if one follows all the religious principles of a particular sect and does not become advanced in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, all such labor of love is fruitless. To execute religious principles means to come to the platform of perfect knowledge. If one comes to the platform of perfect knowledge, then he will be uninterested in material affairs. Perfect knowledge means knowledge of one's own self and the Supreme Self. The Supreme Self and the individual self, although one in quality, are different in quantity. This analytical understanding of knowledge is perfect. Simply to understand, I am not matter, I am spirit, is not perfect knowledge. The real religious principle is devotional service or bhakti. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita, where Lord Krishna says, "Give up all other religious principle and simply surrender unto me." Therefore, the term dharma applies only to Vaishnava dharma or Bhagavad dharma, by following which one automatically achieves all good qualities and advancement in life. कहाँ है?
Oh, right. Okay, here. The highest perfection.
The highest perfectional knowledge is knowledge of the Supreme Lord. He cannot be understood by any process of religion other than devotional service. Therefore, the immediate result of perfect knowledge is achieved by executing devotional service. After attainment of knowledge, one becomes uninterested in the material world. This is not because of dry philosophical speculation. The devotees become uninterested in the material world, not simply experience.
Not simply because of theoretical.
Because of theoretical understanding, but because of practical experience. When a devotee realizes the effect of association with the Supreme Lord, he naturally hates the association of so-called society, friendship and love.
Society, friendship, and love.
This detachment is not dry, but is due of achieving a higher status of life by relishing transcendental knowledge. It is further stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that after attainment of such knowledge and such detachment from material sense gratification, one's advancement in the eight opulences attained through mystic yoga practice, such as the Anima, Lagima, and Prapti Siddhis is also achieved without separate effort. The perfect example is Maharaj Ambrish. He was not a mystic yogi but a great devotee. Yet, in a disagreement with Maharaj Ambrish, the great mystic Durvasa was defeated in the presence of the king's devotional attitude. In other words, a devotee does not need to practice the mystic yoga system to achieve power. The power is behind him by the grace of the Lord. Just as when a small child is surrendered to a powerful father, all the powers of the father are behind him. Hare Krishna.
When a person becomes famous as a devotee of the Lord, his reputation is never to be extinguished. Lord Chaitanya, when discoursing with Ramananda Roy, questioned, "What is the greatest fame?" Ramananda Roy replied that to be known as a pure devotee of Lord Krishna is the perfect fame. The conclusion, therefore, is that Vishnu Dharma, or the religion of devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is meant for persons who are thoughtful. By proper utilization of thoughtfulness, one comes to the stage of thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By thinking of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from the contamination of the faulty association of the material world, and thus one becomes peaceful. The world is in a disturbed condition because of a scarcity of such peaceful devotees in human society. Unless one is a devotee, one cannot be equal to all living entities. A devotee is equally disposed toward the animals, the human beings, and all living entities because he sees every living entity as a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. In the Ishopanishad, it is clearly stated that one who has come to the stage of seeing all living beings equally does not hate anyone or favor anyone. The devotee does not hanker to possess more than he requires. Devotees are therefore akinchana. In any condition of life, a devotee is satisfied. It is said that a devotee is even-minded, whether he is in hell or in heaven. A devotee is callous to all subjects other than his engagement in devotional service. This mode of life is the highest perfectional stage from which one can be elevated to the spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. The devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are especially attracted by the highest material quality, goodness, and the qualified Brahmana is the symbolic representation of this goodness. Therefore, a devotee is attached to the Brahminical stage of life. He is not very much interested in passion or ignorance, although these qualities also emanate from the Supreme Lord Vishnu. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotees are described as Nipuna Buddhaya, which means that they are the most intelligent class of men. Uninfluenced by attachment or hatred, the devotee lives very peacefully and is not agitated by the influence of passion and ignorance.
It may be questioned here why a devotee should be attached to the quality of goodness in the material world if he is transcendental to all material qualities. The answer is that there are different kinds of people existing in the modes of material nature. Those in the mode of ignorance are called Rakshasas, those in the mode of passion are called Asuras, and those in the mode of goodness are called Suras or demigods. Under the direction of the Supreme Lord, these three classes of men are created by material nature, but those in the goodness of have a great but those in the mode of goodness have a greater chance to be elevated to the spiritual world, back home, back to Godhead. Thus, all the sages who assembled on the bank of the river Saraswati to try to determine who is the supreme predominating deity became freed from all doubts about Vishnu worship. All of them thereafter engaged in devotional service, and thus they achieved the desired result and went back to Godhead.
Those who are actually eager to be liberated from material entanglement would do well to accept at once the conclusion given by Sri Shukadeva Goswami in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. It is said that hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is extremely conducive to liberation. The same fact is now confirmed by Suta Goswami. If anyone who is traveling aimlessly within this material world cares to hear the nectarian words spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, certainly he will come to the right conclusion, which is that simply by discharging devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will be able to stop the fatigue of perpetually migrating from one material body to another. In other words, one who becomes fixed in loving devotional service to Vishnu will certainly be able to get relief from this journey of material life, and the process is very simple. One has to give oral reception to the sweet words spoken by Shukadeva Goswami in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Another conclusion is that we should never consider the demigods, even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be on an equal level with Lord Vishnu. If we do this, then according to the Padma Purana, we are immediately categorized as atheists. Also, in the Vedic scripture known as Hari Vamsha, it is stated that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is to be worshipped, and that the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra or any such Vishnu mantra is always to be chanted. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, "Both Lord Shiva and I are engaged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to act in different capacities under His direction." In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is also stated that the only master is Krishna, and that all others in all categories of life are servants of Krishna only. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is confirmed by the Lord that there is no truth superior to Krishna. Shukadev Goswami also, in order to draw attention to the fact that among all Vishnu Tattvas, all Vishnu Tattva forms, Lord Krishna is 100% the Supreme Personality of Godhead, narrated the story of an incident which took place when Lord Krishna was present.
Once upon a time, in Dwarka, a Brahmana's wife gave birth to a child. Unfortunately, however, just after being born and touching the ground, the child immediately died. The Brahmana father took the child and went directly to the palace of the king. The Brahmana was very upset because of the untimely death of the child in the presence of his young father and mother. Thus, his mind became very much disturbed. Formerly, when there were responsible kings up to the time of Dwapara Yuga, when Lord Krishna was present, the king was liable to be blamed for untimely death of a child in the presence of his parents. Similarly, such responsibility was there during the time of Lord Ramchandra. As we have explained in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the king was so responsible for the comforts of the citizens that he was to see that there was not even excessive heat or cold. Now the Brahmana whose child had died, thinking there was no fault on his own part, immediately went to the palace door with the dead child in his arms and accused the king as follows.
The present king Ugrasena is envious of the Brahmanas. The exact word used in this connection in Brahmadvish, one who is envious of the Vedas, of a qualified Brahmana or of the Brahmana's caste is called Brahmadvish. So the king was accused of being being Brahmadvish. He was also accused of being Sathadi, falsely intelligent. The executive head of a state must be very intelligent to see to the comforts of the citizen. But according to the Brahmanas, the king was not at all intelligent, although he was occupying the royal throne. Therefore, the Brahmana also called him Lubdha, which means greedy. In other words, a king or an executive head of the state should not occupy the exalted post of president or king if he is greedy and self-interested. But it is natural that an executive head becomes self-interested when he is attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, another word used here is Vishyat Man. Next, Mataji, one more paragraph.
I don't know. Which one is it? The Brahmanas? The Brahmanas also accused? The Brahmanas also accused the king of being Kshatriya Bandhu, which refers to a person born in the family of Kshatriyas or the royal order, but lacking the qualifications of a royal personality. A king should protect Brahminical culture and should be very alert to the welfare of his citizens. He should not be greedy due to attachment to material enjoyment. If a person with no qualifications represents himself as a Kshatriya of the royal order, he is not called a Kshatriya, but a Kshatriya Bandhu. Similarly, if a person is born of a Brahmana father, but has no Brahminical qualifications, he is called Brahma Bandhu or Dvija Bandhu. This means that a Brahmana or a Kshatriya is not accepted simply by birth. One has to qualify himself for the particular position. Only then is he accepted as a Brahmana or a Kshatriya.
Thus the Brahman charged that his newly born baby was dead due to the disqualifications of the king. The Brahman took it to be most unnatural, and therefore he held the king responsible. We also find in Vedic history that If a Kshatriya king was irresponsible, sometimes a consulting board of Brahmanas maintained by the monarchy would dethrone him. Considering all these points, it appears that the post of monarch in the Vedic civilization is a very responsible one. Okay. The Brahmana therefore said, "No one should offer respects or worship to a king whose only business is envy. Such a king spends his time either hunting and killing animals in the forest or killing citizens for criminal acts. He has no self-control and possesses bad character. If such a king is worshipped or honored by the citizens will never be happy. They will always remain poor, full of anxieties and aggrievement, and always unhappy." In modern politics, the post of monarch has been abolished, and the president is not held responsible for the comforts of the citizens. In this age of Kali, the executive head of a state somehow or other gets votes and is elected to an exalted post. But the condition of the citizens continues to be full of anxiety, distress, unhappiness, and dissatisfaction.
The Brahmana's second child also died at birth, and the third also. He had 9 children who all died at birth, and each time he came to the gate of the palace to accuse the king. When the Brahmana came to accuse the king of Dwarka for the 9th time, Arjuna happened to be present with Krishna. On hearing that a Brahmana was accusing the king of not properly protecting him, Arjuna became inquisitive and approached the Brahmana. He said, "My dear Brahman, why do you say that there are no proper Kshatriyas to protect the citizens of your country? Is there not even someone who can pretend to be a Kshatriya, who can carry a bow, an arrow to at least make a show of protection? Do you think that all the royal personalities in this country simply engage in performing sacrifices with the Brahmanas but have no chivalrous power?" Thus, Arjuna indicated that Kshatriyas should not sit back comfortably on the pretext of performing Vedic rituals, but must rather be very chivalrous in protecting the citizens. Brahmanas, being engaged in spiritual activities, are not expected to do anything which requires physical. Therefore, they need to be protected by the Kshatriyas so that they will not be disturbed in the execution of their higher occupational duties.
If the Brahmanas feel unwanted separation from their wives and children, Arjuna continued, and the Kshatriya kings do not care of them, then such Kshatriyas are to be considered no more than stage players. In dramatic performances in the theatre, an actor may play the part of a king, but no one expects any benefits from such a make-believe king. Similarly, if the king or the executive head of a state cannot give protection to the head of the social structure, he is considered merely a bluffer. Such executive heads simply live for their own livelihood while occupying exalted posts as chiefs of state. My lord, I promise that I shall give protection to your children, and if I am unable to do so, then I shall enter into blazing fire, so that the sinful contamination which has infected me will be counteracted.
Upon hearing Arjuna speak in this way, the Brahmana replied, "My dear Arjun, Lord Balram is present, but he could not give protection to my children. Lord Krishna is also present, but he also could not give them protection. There are also many other heroes, such as Pradyumna and Aniruddha, carrying bows and arrows, but they could not protect my children. The Brahmana directly hinted that Arjuna could not do that which was impossible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He felt that Arjuna was promising something beyond his power. The Brahmana said, I consider your promise to be like that of an inexperienced child. I cannot put my faith in your promise.
Arjuna then understood that the Brahmana had lost all faith in the Kshatriya kings. Therefore, to encourage him, Arjuna spoke as if criticizing even his friend Lord Krishna. While Lord Krishna and others were listening, he specifically attacked Krishna by saying, My dear Brahmana, I am neither Sankarsana nor Krishna, nor one of Krishna's sons like Pradyumna or Aniruddha. My name is Arjuna, and I carry the bow known as Gandiva. You cannot insult me, for I have satisfied even Lord Shiva by my prowess, which we were both hunting when we were both hunting in the forest. I had a fight with Lord Shiva, who appeared before me as a hunter. And when I satisfied him by my prowess, he gave me the weapon known as Pashupata. Do not doubt my chivalry. I shall bring back your sons, even if I have to fight with death personified. When the Brahmana was assured by Arjuna in such exalted words, he was somehow or other convinced, and thus he returned home.
Glasses. I cannot see otherwise. Thank you. And the Brahmana's wife was
You have
given.
to put the microphone right to your mouth because it's being recorded.
Oh, okay.
We're online.
Whoa, okay. When the Brahmana's wife was to give birth to another child, the Brahmana began to chant, My dear Arjuna, please come now and save my child. After hearing him, Arjuna immediately prepared himself by touching sanctified water and uttering holy mantras to protect his bows and arrows from danger. He specifically took the arrow presented to him by Lord Shiva, and while going out, he remembered Lord Shiva and his great favor. In this way, he appeared in front of the maternity home, equipped with his bow, known as Gandiva, with various other weapons.
Arjuna, who apparently had not left Dwarka because he had not fulfilled his promise to the Brahmana, was called at night when the Brahmana's wife was to give birth to the child. While going to the maternity home to attend to the delivery case of the Brahmana's wife, Arjuna remembered Lord Shiva and not his friend Krishna. He thought that since Krishna could not give protection to the Brahmana, it was better to take shelter of Lord Shiva. This is another instance of how a person takes shelter of the demigods. This is explained in the Bhagavad-Gita. Karmis, Bhagavad-Gita. Kamestete het jnana prapadante anya devata. A presence who loses his intelligence because of greed and lust forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead and takes shelter of the demigods. Of course, Arjuna was not an ordinary living entity, but because of his friendly dealings with Krishna, he thought that Krishna was unable to give protection to the Brahmana and that he would do better to remember Lord Shiva. Later, it was proved that Arjuna's taking shelter of Lord Shiva instead of Krishna was not at all successful. Arjuna, however, did his best by chanting different mantras, and he shot arrows up and down to guard the maternity home from all directions. The Brahmana's wife delivered a male child, and as usual, the child begins to cry. But suddenly, within a few minutes, both the child and Arjuna's arrow disappeared into the sky. It appears that the Brahmana's house was.
Is that another paragraph?
It's very small.
Oh.
Near Krishna's residence, and the Lord Krishna was enjoying everything that was taking place. Apparently, in defiance of his authority, it was he who played the trick of taking away the Brahmana's baby as well as the arrows, including the one given by Lord Shiva, of which Arjuna was so proud. Antavant tu phalam tesham tad bhavate alpa medasham. Less intelligent men take shelter of the demigods due to bewilderment and are satisfied with the temporary benefits they award.
In the presence of Lord Krishna and others, the Brahmana began to accuse Arjuna. Everyone see my foolishness. I put my faith in the words of Arjuna, who is impotent and who is expert only in false promises. How foolish I was to believe Arjuna. He promised to protect my child, when even Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Lord Balaram, and Lord Krishna had failed. If such great personalities could not protect my child, then who can do so? I therefore condemn Arjuna for his false promise, and I also condemn his celebrated bow Gandiva and his impudence in declaring himself greater than Lord Balaram, Lord Krishna, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. How can anyone save my child who has already been transferred to another planet? Due to sheer foolishness only, Arjuna thought he could bring back my child from another planet.
Thus condemned by the Brahmana, Arjuna empowered himself with the mystic yoga perfection so that he could travel to any planet to find the Brahmana's baby. It seems that Arjuna had mastered the mystic yoga power by which yogis can travel to any planet they desire. He first of all went to the planet known as Yamaloka, where the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, lives. There he searched for the Brahmana's baby, but was unable to find him. He then immediately went to the planet where the king of heaven, Indra, lives. When unable to find the baby there, he went to the planet of the fire demigod, then to the planet of Niriti demigod, and then to the moon planet. Then he went to Vayuloka and Varunaloka. When unable to find the baby on those planets, he went down to the Rasatal planet, the lowest of the planetary systems. After traveling to all these different planets, he finally went to Brahmaloka, where even mystic yogis cannot go. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Arjuna had that power and he went above the heavenly planets to Brahmaloka. When he was unable to find the baby, even after searching all possible planets, he then attempted to throw himself into a fire. Since he had promised the Brahmana he would do so if unable to bring back his baby. Lord Krishna, however, was very kind to Arjuna because Arjuna was the most intimate friend of the Lord. Lord Krishna persuaded Arjuna not to enter the fire in disgrace. Krishna indicated that since Arjuna was his friend, if he were to enter the fire in hopelessness, indirectly it would be a blemish on him. Lord Krishna therefore checked Arjuna, assuring him that he would find the baby. He told Arjuna, "Do not foolishly commit suicide."
After addressing Arjuna in this way, Lord Krishna called for his transcendental chariot. He mounted it along with Arjuna and proceeded north. Lord Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead, could have brought the child back without effort, but we should always remember that he was playing the part of a human being. As a human being has to endeavor to achieve certain results, so Lord Krishna, like an ordinary human being, or like his friend Arjuna, left Dwarka to bring back the Brahman's baby. By appearing in human society and exhibiting his pastimes as a human being, Krishna definitely showed that there was not a single personality greater than he. God is great. That is the definition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So at least within this material world, while he was present, Krishna proved that there was no greater personality within the universe.
Seated on his chariot with Arjuna, Krishna proceeded north, crossing over many planetary systems. These are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Saptadvipa. Dvipa means island. These planets are sometimes described in the Vedic literature as Dvipas. The planet on which we are living is called Jambu Dvip. Outer space is taken as a great ocean of air, and within that great ocean of air there are many islands. These which are the different planets. On each and every planet there are oceans also. On some of the planets the oceans are of salt water, and on some of them these are of oceans of milk. On others there are oceans of liquor, and on other there are oceans of ghee or oil. There are different kinds of mountains also. Each and every planet has a different type of atmosphere.
Krishna passed over all these planets and reached the covering of the universe. This covering is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as great darkness. The material world as a whole is described as dark. In the open space there is sunlight and therefore it is illuminated. But in the covering, because of the absence of sunlight, it is naturally dark. When Krishna approached the covering layer of this universe, the 4 horses which were drawing his chariot, Shaibya, Sugriva, Meghapushpa and Balahaka, all hesitated to enter the darkness. This hesitation is also a part of the pastimes of Lord Krishna, because the horses of Krishna are not ordinary. It is not possible for ordinary horses to go all over the universe and then enter into its outer covering layers. As Krishna is transcendental, his chariot and his horses and everything about him are also transcendental, beyond the qualities of this material world. We should always remember that Krishna was playing the part of an ordinary human being, and his horses also, by the will of Krishna, played the parts of ordinary horses in hesitating to enter the darkness.
Krishna is known as Yogeshwara, as stated in the last portion of the Bhagavad-Gita. Yogeshwaro Harihi. All mystic powers are under his control. In our experience, we can see many human beings who have yogic mystic power and who sometimes perform very wonderful acts. But Krishna is understood to be the master of all mystic power. Therefore, when he saw that his horses were hesitant to proceed into the darkness, he immediately released his disc, known as the Sudarshan Chakra, which illuminated the sky 1,000 times brighter than sunlight. The darkness of the covering of the universe is also a creation of Krishna's, and the Sudarshan Chakra is Krishna's constant companion. Thus, he penetrated the darkness by keeping the Sudarshan Chakra before him. Srimad Bhagavatam states that the Sudarshan Chakra penetrated the darkness just as an arrow released from the Sharanga bow of Lord Ramachandra penetrated the army of Ravana. Su means very nice and Darshana means observation. By the grace of Lord Krishna's disc Sudarshana, everything can be seen very nicely and nothing can remain in darkness. Thus, Lord Krishna and Arjuna crossed over the great region of darkness covering the material universes.
Arjuna then saw the effulgence of light known as the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti is situated outside the covering of the material universe, and because it cannot be seen with our present eyes, the Brahmajyoti is sometimes called Avyakta. The spiritual effulgence is the ultimate destination of the impersonalists, not as Vedantists. The Brahmajyoti is also described as Ananta Param, unlimited and unfathomed. When Lord Krishna and Arjuna reached the region of the Brahmajyoti, Arjuna could not tolerate.
Could not tolerate the glaring effulgence. And he closed his
Could not, yes. He closed his eyes. Lord Krishna and Arjuna reached the Brahmajyoti region described and Hari Vamsha. In this portion of the Vedic literature, Krishna informs Arjuna, "My dear Arjuna, the glowing effulgence, the transcendental light you are seeing, is my bodily rays, O chief of descendants of Bharat. This Brahmajyoti is myself, I myself. As the sun disk is the sunshine cannot be separated, Krishna and his bodily rays, the Brahmajyoti, cannot be separated. Thus Krishna claims that the Brahmajyoti is he himself. This is clearly stated in Hari Vamsha, when Krishna says, Aham Sah, Brahmajyoti's combination of the minute particles known as the spiritual sparks of all living entities, known as Chit Kana. The Vedic words as Kam or I am the Brahmajyoti can also be applied to the living entities who can also claim to belong to the Brahmajyoti. In Hari Vamsha, Krishna further explains, this Brahmajyoti is an expansion of my spiritual energy.
We're late. You want to read one more verse?
Krishna told Arjuna, the Brahmajyoti is beyond the region of my external energy known as Maya Shakti. When one is situated within the material world, it is not possible to experience this Brahman effulgence. In other words, in the material world, this effulgence is non-manifested, whereas in the spiritual world, it is manifested. That is the purport of the words Vyakt, Avyakt in the Harivansha. In the Bhagavad-Gita, it is said, Avyakta Vyakta Sanatanaha. Both these energies are eternally manifested. Next.
So that concludes our 1 hour of reading Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. We'd like to thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for allowing us to come to your sacred room here in Vrindavan. And as we always do, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Nama Om Vishnuvadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paskachadi Shatarane. And to each other, Vanchakalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So next week we'll conclude that chapter. What's the name of it? Yeah, the super excellent powers of Krishna. Haribol. Glorious to Prabhupada. Glorious to Krishna book.